like a well-oiled machine.
Hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of Dungeons, Dice and Dudes, where we take those three things, mix them together, and magic happens. Woo! Hey! I'm your DM, Briggsy, and I am not joined by George, who plays Sabine. He is away, unfortunately. So if everything looks a little shitter, it's because he's not. Oh my god, he's not here.
He's not here
to help facilitate setting things up. So much appreciation to him for doing that.
Hey, what's up, you guys? It's George, who plays Sabine. I wasn't there for the original recording, which, yeah, they're right, it's why it looks so shit. But I will be here, little inserts during this video, just to get my perspective, Sabine's perspective across, and to add extra insight. So, I'll just jump in and out of the video. Bye for now, back in a minute. Cheers then, thanks then.
But I am joined by Danilo, who plays Quinn. Played Quinn. Rob, who played Ulysses.
Hello.
And Owain, Sai, who played Owain.
Hello.
Sorry, we don't have the close-up cam today because it was too much of a hassle. It broke.
Technical difficulties.
Yeah, and you can tell that it's a bit more of a relaxed episode because these two boys are shoveling their face with nondescript pizza. Could be from anywhere.
Could be purchased from any good pizza retailer.
Yeah.
This isn't from one of the good ones.
Let's hope that.
We'll try and keep the logos off the screen.
So George isn't here, hopefully you're all caught up. Everybody's dead.
Yeah, we all died.
Yeah. It was a real sad time.
It was my first TPK.
It's mine as well.
Same, yeah.
I questioned my life afterwards and whether or not I was a good or terrible person. I'll keep that. Yeah, I'll pass it up here.
Are you on it?
Yeah.
Slob on that
the
dip.
nondescript dip. Thank you.
Remember, buy the dip.
Yeah. So instead of just leaping into into the next plans for this campaign, we thought we'd do a little kind of brief roundtable, like catch up, go over past arcs, ask each other questions which we'll now never know the answers to in game, and like go over maybe hopes for the next campaign, maybe any character ideas that people have. And if there's anybody in chat that wants to ask a question, we'll try our best to answer it.
I'm on it.
This would be the first time that we can kind of do that, because normally we're engrossed in the game. Yeah. But before we get into any of that, Sai wants to tell you about some bits and bobs.
Yeah, so if you want to catch up on any of the previous episodes from the start, or listen to one of our spin-off series, or you're just new to podcasting in general, here's a list of places you can listen to said media. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Overcast, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Castbox, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, and Stitcher will have all your podcasting needs.
Very nice, very nice. Now, just to follow that up immediately afterwards, what about social media? Because I hear that's big right now.
So it's a growing market.
It's the future.
Yeah. I'm still dubious.
The Winklevoss twins have given me a really good heads up on the NASDAQ on ones that you should look out for, which are ones that we are featured on, which would be your Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube as well. Check those out. It's different types of content, or at least try to make it different types of content for the different media types.
When was our last TikTok?
About 60 seconds ago.
Shut the front door.
So enjoy that, because those ones get deleted the next day.
Damn. Wow, that's amazing. It's great. What would you say goes on to each one? It's more like, silly photos from each session on Instagram.
Where's the nudes?
Those are on the Patreon.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Calendar coming soon.
I'm telling you, this we are meant to happen. We've said it too much now.
Your TikTok would be like a going live type video or any kind of skit that comes to mind.
Yeah, you rolling some dice until you get a nat 20.
Yeah, we gave up on that after about a week.
Did you roll one in the end?
Nope.
Only a week, I suppose.
Yeah. Maybe I'll go back to that. Clips from the show. You can obviously watch the full videos on VOD on Twitch once we stop recording, or George will upload unedited versions onto YouTube as well as a companion for the podcast. And Twitter, usually replicating what we post on Instagram, and occasionally we will ask questions or make a comment about the current D&D scene.
Yeah. Or we'll berate someone that gives us legitimate feedback.
Yes, fine.
I just don't think it was warranted.
By the way,
Did we eventually get those dice given away?
we did.
Yeah.
Did we?
Okay.
We gave them to one of your mates.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I gave him to Matt, didn't I? Yeah.
Not like in like a
Nepotism way. No,
kind
he
of
actually
way.
did it. Yeah.
He just tweeted dice at us, and that was all you needed. That's all you needed to do. And only one person did it.
After 5 months, someone finally did it.
They're 6 son of bitches. But as Si mentioned, there is the video element. So all of the VODs are uploaded to YouTube. So just Dungeons, Dice and Dudes, edited together by George. So all the breaks are taken out. Some of the fluff is taken out as well. So it's a little bit more of a streamlined, shortened version for you. And typically he will also edit together some sort of fun little crazy clip, and he's really good at it.
And if you tweet us more for trailers for the episodes, George will have no choice but to start doing them again, because that was some of my favourite content we did.
I really hope George is watching this and he's just put his fist through a mirror.
Yep, can confirm. Fist through mirror.
Lovely stuff. Now, if none of that sounds like your cup of tea, then you can always drop over to another little place that the main man, Danilo, is going to tell you about.
Thank you, Nathan. Everyone can go to thinkingcritically.co.uk, where I run a D&D and ttrpg discussion podcast where we take a different word or topic each week with a different guest and discuss what it means in the current climate, D&D climate, that is. We just had Ravenloft, which is a really interesting one. A great opener to season 5, I have to say, if I do say so myself. And I'm currently editing Production, which we might find interesting.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Due for this Friday, which is the date. Whatever this Friday is.
23rd
Yes.
of June,
Thanks, Simon.
2023.
We could do with some more production. Yeah.
Yeah, the way that this one's falling apart.
You've left me in charge of using the bloody
You're fine, mate.
Windows.
We've given you
not
one
Windows.
less camera to worry about. You just have to click between two
That was the first
open
hurdle.
things.
Was the clicking. I think you just about got it. But yeah, thinkingcorrectly.co.uk. Go and check it out. It's cool. It's cool.
It's a good product. I like it.
Thank you.
It's a good time.
It's good. Yeah. And then to follow that up with, we are wonderfully proud to be somewhat sponsored, but mainly ambassadors for Game Tea, a wonderful UK-based company that makes luxury handcrafted items for geeks and gamers worldwide. That's right, they ship worldwide. So if you fancy yourself a brand new set of dice that looks sick as fuck, maybe a new t-shirt like the one that this guy's wearing, or maybe a new set of candles that my other half has bought another 5, so she's got about 25 now.
Sure, more than me.
Wow.
Yeah, she just bulk buys.
I was
And
comparing.
then burns one a month. Then head on over to Game Tea and use the discount code TheBriggsy, that's TheBriggsy, to get 5% off of your entire order.
Didn't notice any numbers in that. Is that correct?
There are no numbers in that.
We don't deal with numbers.
No numbers here.
It's all letters.
Only numbers should be on the dice, just as sailing.
So yeah, head on over.
They've got a bunch of new designs that have just come out as well, right?
They sure do. Yeah.
Ambassadors for the brand. Yeah, a bunch of new stuff that they've just released. Some of it's really cool. A lot of it's really cool. All of it is really cool.
I'm doing my bit. Didn't have to wear this.
I mean, I'm doing my bit. This is another bit.
Who the fuck are they?
This is us. This is us, and we might make it like a limited run. If people want to tweet or hit us up on Instagram or anywhere, really, if it looks like a kind of thing that you want, let us know, and maybe we'll sell you some. And if you don't want to support us in any of those ways, then you can head on over to the Patreon. It's a few different levels to it. One, you're supporting the podcast. You're doing your bit. The next one up, you get a shout out, and then the one after that, you will be written into the campaign as an NPC.
The next campaign.
Yes, because this one it will die.
Is it over?
Yeah.
It is more or less over. So now that we've covered everything, why don't we get onto that subject matter? So how
Have you got ambience for us?
ambience? No, because my MacBook's over there. I mean, you can put on the ambient one.
I can't control this mission.
I'll tell you what, starting with you, Danilo, why don't you talk about your character? Introduce to people that may not have known who Quinn was.
There's a non-Tory pizza on the floor here. Be careful.
In fairness, we didn't really know who Quinn was either. No one really knew a great deal about it.
And that it shall remain.
That's by design. That is.
What's the question?
Who is it?
Just give us a rundown of who Quinn is.
So Simon, remember we talked about your backstory, and I said
I was thinking if we're running short on time this episode, I'll just do my backstory.
No.
Easy 4 hours.
that would really pad us out. And I said, remind me to tell you about Quinn's backstory.
Yeah.
Because it's like a paragraph and fits in D&D Beyond's little box quite tightly. He's just a dude.
Could you elaborate on that?
Just a scholar. He's a learned.
What the best way to approach this? From a meta perspective, I wanted to try the new subclasses that were from one of the books. Wildermount is Chronomancy.
Explorer's Guide to Wildermount.
Yeah. So that seemed like something interesting and new. And then from a design perspective, I always like to theme the characters around I always like to build the characters around their design. So it was all. Every spell I picked at every level was always a Chronomancy spell, and then all the rest I had to pick, which was many, being a wizard, were all in like haste and slow, were all in some way I tried to bend them to the time angle, which is why I ended up with 2 attacking spells and no fireball, because that's about as far removed as you can get.
Stops time for the recipient.
Yes, only. So yeah, that's why I ended up with like no attacking spells, magic missile, and being risk adverse, which is why I like massive magic missile. You don't have to roll, and you just know it's going to do some damage. Yeah. He was on the island that we ended on, and in fact met our demise on, is where he originally came from. Gifted, as you would be to be a wizard. Was part of a cult that kind of groomed him a little bit into being like, you're super strong, let's make you even stronger. Then they ended up doing some abhorrent things, as cults want to do quite often. And even Quinn was like, that's bad. I don't want to. This is my line in the sand, is like gouging eyes and stuff. That's.
Sounds like a bit too hands-on for Quinn.
Yeah. He's like, I'm going to bounce, because that's too much for me. But that is thematically why his religion score was so high, because he was like part of a religious fanatic cult for like 20 years. So, and also it helps to learn your enemy So that's why his religion was higher than all of your characters.
But that kind of like fit into why he had such disdain for pious.
Because you were all tired of the same brush.
Yeah.
You were like, all roads, it all leads to the same like fanaticism and zealotry that just ends up getting people hurt. So you're all crazy, equally crazy, and I want nothing to do with it anymore.
That makes a great deal of sense.
Yeah. So he was like, no, you guys, like, you're the powers within you, not with any other third party, so you should always, strive hard to work harder and not just rely on some other...
In Ulysses' case, it's not the god, it's the oath that gives him the power. So he still liked the god.
Yes,
like
it's an added benefit.
Yeah. There's some cool stuff.
So that was basically Quinn.
Was there like a big inspiration you were drawing from the character, even in terms of like look or personality or overall?
Nah, it all kind of comes together when I'm playing. I don't tend to do a huge amount ahead of time. With Wizards, it's very easy because you're just like super intelligent, so it's very easy to play the like I'm the intelligent person.
Yeah.
But then obviously that becomes quite difficult to then not be just a constant bellend for. But I like to think that was part of his development before he died. Didn't actually fully die.
Before his body was
that was softening somewhat to be like, people don't like me as much if I'm annoying, so let me try and empathise. Step one, empathy. So yeah, that was him basically. Nothing.
I liked him. I liked Quinn.
Yeah, very fun character to have at the table.
Thank you.
Cool.
He's not dead, so we'll see. Who knows what the future holds?
See you next week.
Basically dead.
He's going to spring back up again.
Maybe down the road.
Another spell level or two, and he would have absolutely not been dead with.
Fun.
Yeah, another. What's the one? I was one level away from.
Similar?
It's called contingency, and
really?
it's specifically for. You set a trigger up, and if a trigger happens within the next 30 days, your spell is cast, and that spell can be whatever you want it to be. So the trigger will be like, I go down to 0 HP. Oh, I disappear and go somewhere else, or get healed, or whatever you want it to be. So that was another one I was working towards. Another key in Quinn's I can't die plan would have been contingency, but I ended up picking the homunc instead at that point. And then he would have been truly invincible.
Yeah.
Yeah, good old V.
Capital T. Maybe he comes and saves me. He puts on the ring, and then Quinn becomes the homunculus.
It's dead, mate.
Yeah, he's still going.
Nah.
Maybe he opens up like a travel agency or something.
I mean, he's by the twins, so he might be about.
Who? Quinn or the homunculus?
The homunculus.
Right.
He's going to deliver the killing blow.
Yeah.
Hey, if he can perform surgery, then...
He's just like chest compressions. It's not surgery.
He's still a simple beast.
Aren't we all?
We are.
The real
We
story.
are.
The real lesson to be learned from the Remarus campaign.
Speaking of simple beasts, hey, Sai, which one of your characters do you want to tell us about?
I guess I should speak mainly about Owain.
Can we stop? I want to stop you there. I'm gonna let you finish. But we're not playing D&D, so all rules are off the table. Can you remind the listeners
And me, because I wasn't here for half of them.
Yeah.
everyone? I want to start from
Everyone.
day one.
Okay, so
What happened to them?
But try and keep it under 10 minutes.
that's a tough task.
Yep.
Okay, so
He's already getting all the liquids in there, ready to
where's my
go.
whistle? So we started off with Mordethus, who was a blood hunter. So I was very keen to try a new what's that looking for? Class. At that point, I've been playing D&D for about 4 years, so I wanted. It was just quite a cool idea for a class, but I feel like I lent too much into the class and there wasn't really much to the character. Everything was kind of built around that, and it always felt like a bit of a shallow character to me, and in the end just ended up being a bit of a Witcher ripoff, even down to appearance and voice. Still fun to play. I kind of wish I'd done a bit more research into it to kind of flesh it out. I think when I initially rolled him as well was before when the character was still in beta. So about 4 or 5 sessions in, a lot of stuff had to be changed to adhere to current rules.
What was your subclass?
Oh god.
So Lycan.
Yeah. So he could switch it on and off, turn into a werewolf. Pretty much a werewolf or a Lycan. I can't remember now, because I think there was a couple of sessions I was using the wrong stat block.
Yeah, it's essentially kind of how the rules of lycanthropy work anyway, which is where like you take the aspects, like their keen sense or their natural armor, that sort of stuff, but your hit points are your hit points.
Yeah.
But you just take reduced damage.
I did find it quite cool as well. You could have, it was either 2 or 3 forms of transformation. So you had like a typical upright, furry looking werewolf, or you could essentially turn into a direwolf. So I thought that was quite a cool thing for the class. It's definitely something I'd want to go back to. And he kind of started the obsession with the Moonshade Isles.
I was going to ask,
off the back of that.
Was he Moonshavian?
He was, yeah.
And let me rephrase the question. Is the next 10 minutes all about Moonshavian characters?
There may or may not be a character that I may or may not have played for one episode that wasn't from there.
I think that's enough, no more.
Yeah. So following up from that, he met his demise in a sewer, so very unbecoming of a warrior of the faith. So after that was lovable rogue Frederick, who's definitely one of my favourite characters I've ever played. Very high charisma cleric. And he was a bit of like I want to say James Bond. That might be too blatant, but he was very like a suave, quite worldly, bit of like a maybe tried to avoid physical confrontation quite a lot, but he could still get the job done if needs be. I don't really remember. I don't think I played as he was probably the shortest term character I had in all the ones that I had die. But he was. I just remember it being a very fun character to play. Kind of helped me get a bit more comfortable with cleric because it's the first time I'd ever played one of those. Again, off the back of the Moonshay heritage. So, but it's quite fun. Like stuff like that, I can't help but get excited about the studiousness of like the fantasy realms. So by that point I knew a lot about it, and I was like, well, he's from the same place as this person, but it'd be cool if he was from this area. Yeah, exactly.
Forgotten Realms.
Forgotten Realms, yeah. And then again, pious, but would do what it takes, as we saw. Essentially sold someone else's soul to make what he thought the situation would be easier for everyone else, which came back to by everyone, and obviously at that point he was dead, so he didn't care. Following on from that was a fighter called Gideon.
We have Mordefus, Frederick,
Gideon, and we'll get on to Owen in a bit.
I feel like there was someone else though. Someone else called like Nabis.
Oh god,
Naboo.
Because you had your like fighter, and then you had like a shapeshifter.
Yes, there was a.
Because he was like, he looked like kind of like a bear. Or
Yeah. He was like the cat. He was like a general or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that was him.
He was the one-shot guy. He was the.
Gideon has come from.
Was that not him?
Well, no, because Nabis makes a lot, and he was the general bear person.
Yeah, because what's the race that has the
Shifter.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that. Maybe I'm just getting the name wrong because it definitely was that.
If you can't, how?
Yeah.
Any of us have any hope?
So he very much felt like a very last minute plucked from obscurity character, and his whole thing was he was undercover investigating the what was the area we were in right at the start when there was the terrorist attack. He was investigating Luxor, and he had infiltrated the workmen's ranks to investigate their army. And who was the guy that everyone hated? The guy we love to hate.
Danton.
Yes. So he was actually, his endgame was to investigate him and essentially take him to trial for war crimes. There was just something about the character I didn't like. I remember speaking to Nathan about it. I was like, this isn't, I don't know, I just feel very rushed doing this character, and it's just not gelling with me once we played it. I don't think I've ever played a fighter before as well. So yeah, Nathan was nice enough to let me re-roll another character, and luckily that episode got lost in the ether, so there is no evidence of that character ever existing.
Wow. Okay.
Or any kind of interaction with that character happening.
Yeah, I've got, so you got Mordefus
Is that a surname?
That's a surname.
Completely forgot you had a surname.
Frederick Belmont,
Yeah.
and then Nabis
Castlevania
Daneborn.
2.
Yes.
Was he the one that you started off doing?
No.
The Owen Wilson.
No.
Oh.
So that was Owen.
Right.
And the whole, what I really wanted to do with Owen, it was a marriage of a lot of different ideas I had that didn't really present themselves to me as playing further down, and I was doing I already kind of had an idea he was a bit of like a tragic character and he had like a bit of a bad past, but it wasn't at that point what I then applied to that character in terms of the stuff to do with his family. I was setting for a completely different character, so I hadn't really fully developed what it was, and I was like, he's going to be different because a lot of characters I play, especially Frederick, was fun, maybe play that bit for laughs, bit cheeky, and I just wanted this guy to be dour and serious and whatever like that. Doing the Owen Wilson accent was a huge mistake.
Wow, whiplash.
Yeah, and I was like, he does serious acting, and there's a way I can kind of channel that, and doing voices is really difficult.
Yeah.
So I kind of wanted to push myself to do it, and I got a bit stubborn. I think I did that voice for about 2 or 3 episodes. Midway through a conversation, I was like, right, this has got to drop. He's like, this is how I actually sound. I'm actually on the run. I'm out in the open. I've been on the run for months and months.
So you played that off in game as well, then, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
Like,
Solution for that
It was something I never went back to, because I was like, if he goes to different towns and different cities, he'll do different voices, because I can't remember how it came about, but I think based off of that I gave Owen quite a high charisma score, high performance, deception, all that type of stuff, and the more I played it I was like, oh, he's very pious, very God-fearing, etc, etc. So I was like, that aspect of him doesn't really play into that, and it kind of got dropped after the tournament where he moulded clay onto his face. It just reminded me of Mrs. Doubtfire. There's that weird TV show they're watching and someone is having a new face made. So I was like, he's this religious guy with like a war background, but he's kind of like a master of disguise, and I kind of unintentionally dropped that, and maybe wish I stuck to that accent thing a bit more, but I was like, I don't really want him to be like a comic relief thing, even though everyone kind of found his whole character funny. It was never my intention, but from a perspective of looking in, I was like, yeah, this guy is really strange and weird around people, and I wanted to kind of incorporate that. So I was like, okay, I'll pull stuff from this other character I've written to explain why, and it's like he's been he's 50 years old, he's an elf, but he's essentially early 20s to like a human. So he, you know, was kind of mentally and like he was doing stuff that he didn't want to be doing. He was locked up for a long time under the pretense that he was protected, and then he kind of, once he escaped that, or once he was discarded, went on to join the church, and even that is like a secluded life. Even though his job was to go to different areas, it was, okay, you start here, then you go here. You don't really leave or go to town or anything like that. Once you're done there, you go to the next thing. And it was quite like that. And then I was reading up on stuff about like Seinin and stuff like that. And I found the Critical Role article rather than the Forgotten Realms one. And I was like, oh, surely this is the same. And it was a very similar yet different definition of that faith. And I was like, oh, okay, so that actually makes this character a bit more interesting if I apply a lot more of like the because that Critical Role stuff seemed to imply that Seinin was a bit more on the side of, yeah, she's the guardian of the moonlight and stuff like that. But it kind of developed it a bit more and embellished, and it was like, what happens in the moonlight? And then it was all about tryst and affairs and stuff like that. And I was like, his you know, he deals in hypocrisy in that case, because I think it became developed a bit later on that the relationship he had with his mentor Seiri kind of and I was pulling very much from Snakier at this point, and I very much wanted it to be like Big Boss and the Boss, where their relationship is beyond, you know, sexual or parental or anything like that. It's just a higher tier form of relationship. And I was like, no, let's actually just break this guy down and expose him as a hypocrite. And yeah, I was like, okay, yeah, it'd be really cool if he actually wasn't as chaste and pure as he makes out, and everything isn't as sacred as he makes out to be. That's just his coping mechanism, and he spent 5 decades trying to cope with trauma. And as you can tell, I just had idea after idea after idea, and I was like, 50 years is a long time. I've never experienced 50 years, so let's just chuck in a whole bunch of stuff and see what sticks. I was really happy with how the character turned out, but I don't think there's enough. It got very late in the game to kind of explore a lot of the stuff that was my headcanon. So I apologise if I ever tried to shoehorn that in, but it was just a character I was very excited about. I've never developed a character this deeply before, and probably never will again. So I just, was having idea after idea, and I was like, I don't know, he's a very cool character for me to play, as well as in terms of like combat and RP and stuff like that. And you know, he's 50, but he's just discovering the world, and he's a man of means, but is embarrassed by that, and he can't use this stuff because no one's allowed to know who he is. And this was essentially his first group of friends, which was very dysfunctional or not welcoming in terms of his relationship with Quinn. So yeah, I just thought that's basically it.
Right, so George,
Still with us.
When you're editing this, if you could put like a little timer at the point it's starting, and then like a little ding 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 ding.
I think I kept it to 10 minutes.
Cool.
I counted 3 pop culture references there. Critical Role, Forgotten Realms, and Metal Gear Solid 3 hits. One of those is not like the other.
Cool, lovely stuff. And Rob?
I had the pleasure of playing 2 characters this campaign. One very, very briefly for, I think, a single session. I played Romeo Arclight, the changeling, dashing kind of rogue type, big kind of musketeer-esque hat, big twirly moustache. I think I had some scheduling problems that ended up meaning it could only be 1 session, but the idea was to come in and help you guys escape prison. didn't go especially well. Is what it is. I thought that character was a cool idea. Turns out changelings hard to play. They don't get a great deal as a race. That's particularly useful. And I can't remember what class I was. I might have been fighting Bard.
No.
But no, that was.
I think you were Warlock because you had like healing powers.
Yeah, he was a Hexblade, I think.
Yeah, when we met in the prison.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because I turned into one of the guards and was like, "Please let me out." Yeah, and they were like, "No, we're not."
You're trying to shake his hand through the bars and stuff. Yeah, I remember.
But he was fun, and then went away for a bit, and then came back as one Ulysses Armstrong, son of Halvar Armstrong, one of the generals of one of the northern cities, a very accomplished athlete and fighter, but rather than joining his dad's army, was like, nah, I've probably got more important things to do. I've probably got grander designs for me. Much to his father's chagrin, so he left in search of glory, as was his oath of Path of Glory. His whole shtick was he, in his hubris, joined up with this group of adventurers. They fought something that was massively outclassing at least his skill set, and then because he misjudged it, very quickly realised he was screwed and ran. And was deeply ashamed, and then would do small jobs in small towns because he'd get glory from that, but it also kept his head down. That's when he bumped into you guys.
What was that creature?
It was I believe it was a corpse collector, and it was when we fought the Crimson Legion. That was the same area.
Yeah.
So there was an opportunity there for me to redeem myself by fighting that. Big strong guy, total chicken shit.
Yeah.
He's like, no, don't want anything to do with that, not right now. I think he would have liked to have gone back and done it at some stage, but his arc through this was very much like, I've got the glory. Like I'm fighting for glory's sake. I'm fighting to be a champion of Cord. Took part in the Gauntlet of Cord. Did well but didn't win, and it felt like we were just taking L after L after L after L, and it got to the stage where he was like kind of not losing faith, but just like, what the fuck do you want from me? Like, what am I supposed to do? Because I don't feel glorious. Like, I do not feel bonita. So when I had I had to take a little bit of time off because my son was born. Yay! And that was a cool opportunity for Ulysses to. It was when we were at sea. We stopped at the island. We fought the storm giant.
That was rough.
It was really rough. Final blow, and then Avatar of Cord appeared and was like, alright, come on, you've got some shit you need to work out. So he left. He came back in game, a week later?
If that.
Yeah.
So we're still on the boat, right?
Yeah. And then, but in Ulysses' time, he was away for a month and a bit, and it was just ceaseless training and guidance from above, which is why when he came back, he was a bit like, why is no one taking this more seriously? I've literally just been to heaven. Why are we dealing with these bureaucrats?
Tough crowd.
Yeah,
you're the tough crowd to come back to.
I feel like he, in the end, redeemed himself. His final stand was trying to get the attention of this Atropal.
Yep.
Yeah. And on his steed, send his two companions away to be saved, but didn't work out. But again, I feel like that act of sacrifice, that act of I'm the one you want, let them go, is enough for him to be redeemed for the failure that he had before. So I'm quite. So I would have liked to have seen it through to the end. I think one more level and I would have gotten Find Greater Steed, which meant Monty would have gotten wings. which would have been sin.
Ever made that fight so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. It's like I said, I think when he died, you said, "How's he feeling?" It's bittersweet. Like, he feels redeemed. He feels like he's done as much as he needs to. But yeah, there was more to do. There is more to do.
I do quite like that though. Having the runaway part, it feels like he was destined to die in combat almost. It is quite nice to be like, you have to pay, and it's a big price to pay for running away, but then you'll be done, and everyone will be happy. But that's, so you kind of live at like.
And Cord being like, cool, I've begun. I like the idea of like, if someone's doing like Summon Celestial, they might get Spirit Ulysses coming down, being like, yo, what's up?
My belt shoots lightning bolts.
Cool. So that's, and then obviously there's George's character Sabine, but you know, we've done a recap before. And we had George on there, so maybe we're tagged that in like the description or something, and then we can always, I don't know, George can record a little something and put it in at the end or something along those lines. But yeah,
I played Sabine Hess, who was my favourite player character I've ever played. But to be fair, this is my first proper full campaign that I've been involved in, so a bit biased there, I guess, with her being my favourite character I've ever played. I'm also kind of proud of the fact that Sabine started our campaign before the podcast was even recording. She was one of the first characters in the game and has lasted and survived the longest out of all the others, so kind of proud of that. In a way, I feel like some of her narrative and her backstory and who she was kind of was one of the main through lines of the whole campaign, but maybe that's just my thoughts on it. So yeah, who was Sabine, for someone that doesn't know what she was all about? Sabine is a tiefling rogue assassin who had a small element of Eldritch Knight fighter built into it as well, and I guess from a character construction point of view, that was to kind of take into account that her mother and father, her mother was like an assassin, her father was a battle master fighter, and her training when she was younger would kind of play into the fact that as she got stronger and stronger and leveled up, she would have these levels of rogue, assassin and fighter with a bit of magic in there from the Eldritch Knight stuff. She's from Tykahan, which is a continent that's been yet unexplored in this campaign, but I believe Nathan is thinking of exploring that next campaign. We'll see where that goes. But yeah, it's like a kind of deserty oasis kind of continent with like volcanoes and deserts and kind of all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so her backstory was that she was born to a tribe called the Akadeen. And the Akadeen were like a group of tieflings that were constantly on the move, like a kind of caravan kind of society that was constantly going from here to there, and that all of the people in the society would contribute to like doing jobs and working, all to collectively kind of pay in to keep the group going through food and shelter and stuff. And her mother and father, so her father, Zheng Hess, was like the leader of the Akadeen, and he was like as I said, battle master fighter who would go out and win jobs and, you know, bring back bounties and stuff. And her mother was also kind of like, not co-leader of the group, but definitely like the matriarch, that's it, matriarch of that kind of society. And she was an assassin who also would go off and work and kill and assassinate people for money, and then bring that back to the group to keep them sustaining. And a bit of a kind of tragic rogue backstory as always, you know, and it kind of played nicely into, and is definitely a major part of this campaign, was that Zheng, Sabine's father, went off on a job to Luxem to basically assist rebels there to try and kill the king at the time, or the emperor of Luxem. But that failed and didn't work out, and then he was kind of marked. So when he went back to the Akadeen, the emperor of Luxem basically had all of the people of the Academe wiped out. So Sabine survived it because her father protected her, but was left completely alone in the world with no other people around her. And at that time, Sabine's mother, Satine, was also on a job and not at home. So she was completely alone, and Satine never came home either. So Sabine kind of had to, from being like a young child, have to find her way in the world, really kind of played into that kind of growing up as an assassin on the mean streets, killing people and doing odd jobs here and there to get her name established, and then kind of eventually decided to travel over to Luxem to try and find out what happened to her mum. And that's where the campaign started for Sabine. And it went on from there, and where you guys joined in the podcast, so listeners, by that point, Sabine had, I think she knew that her mum was alive in Luxem, but hadn't found her on Meta yet. And then later on, in a few episodes into when you guys were listening, she meets her mum in prison when Sabine's been locked up after trying to break out Ulrich from the guard in Luxem. So yeah, I think that's probably the biggest thing that I regret not being able to finish exploring, was Sabine and Satine kind of really trying to rekindle their mother-daughter bond, because that was something that was briefly touched on in an episode, but didn't really, I think it could have had a bit more time to play out. But yeah, as far as references for the character, like when I was building the character, I think Mandalorian season 1 had just come out and Killing Eve season 2 was in the ether. So those are two of the major influences for the character. When it comes to Mando, it was kind of like the person for hire, doesn't really have a tribe, and is kind of has these values in the background, but by the time you meet Sabine, those values are really distorted and basically gone. And then as far as Killing Eve, well, I mean, Jodie Comer's playing of Villanelle really played into my character creation for Sabine. You could probably tell that. I think there's a few references to it in the podcast as well. So yeah, not discreet, but I just really loved that. And I loved the character of Villanelle in Killing Eve just being this really strong, kind of a little bit chaotic, a little bit kind of evil perspective and alignment, but also kind of like really lovable character, even though they do terrible things. And I wanted to try and make that happen a bit with Sabine as well, that even though she was an assassin and did all this kind of, you know, violent acts, you kind of loved her a little bit, and hopefully that came through. But yeah, I guess as well as that, you know, with that being a reference for the character, playing a female around a table of men and also being a man, it was interesting to play that character and that particular kind of gender. And I hope I did it some justice by trying to make her strong, powerful, and try and represent that around the table. So hopefully I did that some justice, but who knows. And then, yeah, I guess a few other things. She had originally a chaotic neutral alignment. Yeah. So she had chaotic neutral alignment originally. So some of the pranks she would play and some of the stupid shit she would do was because of that. And over time, that eventually became a true neutral alignment because of her lycanthropy that happened during the Gauntlet of Cord. So yeah, that was fun originally to be that chaotic character. Going down the true neutral route, I felt was quite a nice progression, because it meant that as she was growing up, she kind of realised that there were things at stake, and actually maybe chaos wasn't always the best option. Maybe we should try and like see all sides. So true neutral was a nice place to end up in. And yeah, also like originally I planned for the character to be very standoffish and almost kind of anti staying with the group, like, oh, I'm using you guys to find out what's going on with my mum. That was the original thought with the character, but by the end of the campaign, like, I'm pretty confident Sabine might not have died in that final episode if she'd stuck to her original kind of, I don't want to be involved with this group, and I don't want to be involved in a party, like I'm here for myself. And actually that's quite a nice progression as well, that she started it kind of like, I don't need anybody else. I've got through life on my own quite fine. I don't need that. And by the end of the campaign, she was literally running into a chamber with barely any information to try and quickly save one of her best friends, Quinn, and also to save Owain as well. So nice kind of character progression there. But yeah, probably led to her dying in the end, as well as me just being a shit player, probably. But yeah, I guess if things had panned out a bit longer and I'd had more time with the character, I would have loved to have explored what happened to her mum, and also for her to try and get some vengeance on the higher ups in Luxem, who basically killed her entire people when she was a child. So that would have been nice. And also, like, I always had an idea that she would eventually become like a vineyard owner. So, you know, if she does get resurrected, Nathan, I hope you're listening. If she does get resurrected, she can come back, get away from the adventurer lifestyle, start a vineyard in Taikahan. They've got rich soil there because it's like, you know, mountains and volcanoes. So it would work, like, from a narrative perspective. But yeah, those would probably be the things that I'm kind of gutted that we couldn't explore in like a epilogue of her life. But yeah, really enjoyed playing the character. Hope you enjoyed watching, listening to me play her, and yeah.
So just a quick recap of arcs. There's a lot, so apologies for this. So, well, I said there's a lot. I can go into episodes if needed. But yeah, the first arc was Little Fish in a Big Pond. That started with A Midsummer's Day and ended with Unsure Waters. So that started with you guys coming out of Luxem after the terrorist attack and ended with you guys sailing across to Terra Sol.
Hit me with the beginning and the middle and end. The three acts of each act.
Okay, so terrorist attack in Luxem. You guys are not super chill about it, attack guards, and so that draws the ire of the crown, and so they're all like, we don't like you, you're on our radar, maybe we'll use you because it's better to have an eye on you than to not.
For the record, this is before Quinn and Ulysses' time.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
And before Frederick. Well, partway through Frederick.
No, this would have been...
No, because Mortiphus dies after. Yeah, so this is Mortiphus.
That's
the time.
Simon's character's death time before or after Mortiphus? Before or after? BF or AF? After Frederick.
Yeah, you start to get into a little bit of trouble with them poking your nose in where you shouldn't, and this eventually leads to you guys taking on work from Edwin.
Yeah, that was very fun.
Edwin's Extravagant Goods or something, and then heading over to Terra Sol. Act 2 or Arc 2 was the emerging evils. So that started off with you guys kind of poking around Terra Sol, starting to make some connections. As part of that, you bumped into Quinn in, I think it was Into the Depths was the episode.
Outside the cave, yeah.
Yeah. Where you're trying to kill this cult, but that is also the episode where Ulrich died and Frederick decided to make
do a Hail Mary. It was Frederick. At that point, it was Frederick. That was like, I think that was his second.
Because in episode 6, I think it's Pest Control, or episode 7, Lost and Found, is when Mortiphus died and Frederick came in. So that was a nice
racks
way.
Up a huge
bill
for the pie.
So that was a nice thing for Quinn to come into, like one session and you're dealing with someone making a deal for someone's soul.
I think that's why Quinn hated you, Simon.
No matter who I played.
Until the end of the
Quinn had that magic sight looking through the
outside the metaverse into the real world.
So it started with New Horizons, ended with For Glory. So that arc wrapped up with you guys kind of exiting Luxem after trying to break out of prison, fucking everybody off. Quinn having to stage a kind of like an execution prison break thing, and also led to the death of Frederick.
Yeah. So how many sessions do you have a note of how many sessions we'd been through before I'd been through 2 characters?
So by the time we went through 2 characters, it was 25 sessions.
That's not as bad as I thought.
It's not too bad.
It's not as bad as I thought.
How many sessions in total?
In total, we got to. So this is because some of this was pre-podcast.
Yeah.
So the total number of sessions was 64. The
And how
last
many-
one being Forsaken.
And how many characters? 4.
Well, 3, because the
Yeah,
one
we'll be
episode
generous. We'll give them 3.
Yeah.
An average of 21 sessions per character, which isn't too bad actually.
Yeah.
There's probably people watching being like, I'd take that.
Yeah, that's
It's worse than mine.
I don't know how it became a running joke, but I think it's just because Morthus was such a short-lived, and it felt like Frederick was very short-lived, but that's almost 20 sessions.
Yep.
It really doesn't feel like it.
Yeah. The next arc was Forward to Destiny. That started with A Simpler Time, which was you guys leaving Luxon and making your way over to Monolum. As part of that, you bumped into Ulysses over in Brightshade. Did the the Gauntlet of Chords, and kind of dealt with Ulysses's arc for the most part. We'll kind of touch on that a little bit. Arc 4 was Gods, Boats and Death. That was pretty much just leaving Monolum, making your way over to Wei-San, yeah.
Yeah.
That was pretty much that whole arc. Kind of partway through, you get the death of Ulysses and of
The
Ulrich as well.
Oh,
And Kajori.
and Kajori, yeah.
A lot of deaths.
And also a little bit of a budding romance for Owen.
A little
With
bit.
Hilden.
It's a weird one, but
It was, yeah.
It makes a lot more sense now you described him being like, this is the first time I'm talking to
Yeah.
people.
and then the final arc is Arc 5, the Fae Twins. It starts with beginning of the end when you guys touch land in Wei-San, and ends with Forsaken, with you guys heading down into the depths to rescue Owain. So yeah, that's
Owain.
so yeah. I don't know. How do we want to discuss this?
I have a question for you.
Far away.
How much did you, aside from stuff that we hadn't gotten to, how much had you kind of been like, oh, I think they might go for this, I think they might go for that you had kind of planned that we just didn't pick up on? I'm interested in like what we missed. Like what we missed out on.
I think what kind of ended up happening is towards the tail end of the campaign, because it had kind of gotten so bloated with us. Well, not so much bloated, but just very much kind of everything that came about Ulrich's backstory, that it kind of meant that by the time we got towards the tail end, I was like, okay, we really need to focus in on this, and this. So it got to the point where I had most of Moonshade Isles and that sort of stuff written. I had most of the North written. I had most of your backstory
Were we
written.
ever going to go to Moonshade Isles?
Yes.
Oh, thank goodness, okay.
Yeah, it would have, as time went on, it was becoming like a smaller and smaller thing.
It's just one, the Moonshade Islands is just one tiny little island off the coast of Scotland. Like, just
Technically, they're
Constantly-
peninsula. Yeah.
Constantly under moonlight.
just one
Even in the day, it's just got the moon shining on it.
Yeah, it got to the point where Moonshade would be like, you go there, you meet the Deslinter twins, they have, what's that name? Sayri.
Yeah.
who
and then-
isn't Sayanine and who isn't
It's Seldarine.
Seldarine,
Yeah.
and isn't the other person whose name cropped up that one time.
No.
Cool.
Yeah. I had another name.
Oh,
on my notes
yeah. Samir?
This the secret trick name, but nobody knows who that is.
Full disclosure, every single name I used was based off of Fire Emblem characters. I'm sure.
Terrible.
I'm sure.
Belmont?
Oh, yeah.
And Castlevania.
So I went from Castlevania to Fire Emblem. Because I'm incapable of original thought. And I'm sure Samir was just a autocorrect of Sayri, but Samia is also a Fire Emblem
she is,
character from the same game. So maybe at some point that had happened, but I'm sure when I send you that fucking huge text message...
Don't ever do that again.
One of my favourite moments is the two of you being like, who the fuck is this character? And both of you being like, I don't know.
I've never written that down ever. That's literally what I've got in the message.
I've never met this person before in my life.
I'm not going to judge you for using pop culture names, because Armstrong is from Full Metal.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Which is funny because the city that you're from, Krahol, is entirely based on that city in Full Metal where it's got all like the metal walls and it's in the snow. It's pretty much entirely based on that.
Sweet.
It's just random happenstance. But it got more and more kind of refined, and I was like a bit more streamlined, and I did worry a little bit about railroading a little bit towards the end, but I was like, we've spent so much time focusing on this one storyline, and I was getting a little bit burnt out myself. I was like, okay, we're start to focus in on what we're going to focus on for each person.
Because I think in the chat that we had, they're like, cool, here's everything that we want to get done. Is that feasible? And I imagine, as someone that's also written plenty, like prepared plenty for games, that might have been like, okay, like I know what needs doing, like check, like that's already done, that's already done, I can do that, that's fine.
Pretty much from that list was, I had each one of those, I was like, okay, I have around about 2 to 3 sessions roughly that I could do for each one of those things that you want to do. But that's just being very like militant about it. You didn't really miss out too much. It was more towards the beginning of the campaign where things were like, never mind, that's gone now. Because and we mentioned this last time we did the recap, that before you guys fucked everything up in Luxem, it was very much geared towards being more of like a kind of spy espionage, like
a political thriller.
Like
I never got that.
Yeah,
I think by the point you joined,
Scooby-Doo
already that had already kind of
bolted.
Yeah, it already went back into fantasy.
Yeah. Because there was you were kind of making connections in Terra Sol. You had kind of made some connections with Luxem, not necessarily for the right reasons, but they were like aware of you and kind of wanted to keep you in line. But yeah, as soon as you guys turned up in Luxem with a brown paper bag over Ulrich's head,
that's a bad play on our part.
Yeah, that was very boneheaded.
I remember at the time being like, yeah, you can teleport anywhere, and you were just like, that's just town square.
Yeah,
I was like, anywhere else.
There's been a terrorist attack and no one likes us, but
go straight
in.
Yeah. Big chest it, full chest it. That's the only way you can get through.
Having said that, would you, I don't know how far ahead you planned it, but would you ever want to do like a not like a one shot, but like a mini campaign just based more around that? Like a group of, don't even have to be adventurers, like mercs, spies, authority.
I think if that sort of thing was to be done, I would, just because of my obsession with Brennan Lee Mulligan, I would probably do what they've done, where they do like they get a different DM to come in and do like an 8-part series about that particular time.
That's very cool. Yeah.
Because the war that you didn't start, you certainly didn't help. That's,
I think they're like a catalyst. It might be fair to say.
Yeah. I mean, because of how much you guys were fucking about in Luxem, you ended up becoming like the scapegoats for it, and it was like, oh, these are the people that attacked us and started this whole thing. They're terrible people, but that's now affected the actual continent. Because now, at this point, Terra Sol isn't there anymore. It's gone. They've had to leave. It's now a floating city just south of that continent.
It do be like that.
Yeah.
I tell you it don't. Sometimes it do. We fucked it.
Quinn just want a power, man. None of this. He said, she said nonsense.
He wants the facts.
Yeah.
Speaking of Quinn wanting power,
Yeah.
I have 2 questions.
I bought it, so I thought I'd just little treat for the viewers, you know.
The 2 questions I have are
Bison.
related.
I'm sure he probably does something like that, doesn't he?
I think he does that, yeah. And
Oh yeah.
big arm cross.
First question is, given Quinn's history with a cult and how abhorrent they can be
Yeah.
and dangerous they can be, why was he, like, as a very intelligent guy, why was he so quick to listen to these cultists?
I know,
and just buy in?
A, they were the big bosses, so you weren't messing around with any of the chaff down at the bottom who were vying for their own power. You went straight to the top. B, it would have been more of a partnership than a subservient relationship, which is often what it is in the cult. So
Also, you think.
He had no reason to believe otherwise.
Yeah.
He's a man of great power. He thought we can help each other and we'll sort it out.
And yeah, part 2 is, if push came to shove, would you have betrayed us?
Now, define.
Would you have sided with them?
Yeah, would you have partaken in any actions that would have led to their deaths?
Define death. That is a great question, and I really wanted to get to that, to have to be put on the spot to act
decide,
it out
yeah.
at that time what really would have he had to have picked, because honestly it could have gone either way. On one hand it would have been cool to be like, have that as the apex of his character development and be like, no, I'm going to say no to ultimate power because these guys are my friends instead, and that's more important. But that's also cheesy, and ultimate power is ultimate power. So both sides, I felt like both options would have been interesting for the game, which is the ultimate.
And also I definitely feel like Quinn was always like a character that he never really felt, not like he didn't settle, but everyone was just kind of aware, like, this guy could turn us.
Wow!
At any second. Like,
well, he's a pragmatist.
Yeah.
If it's more convenient or the better option,
yeah,
he would go for it.
See, that was softening at the end, because when we went to save Owain like 2-3 times, he definitely wouldn't have done that in the first couple of like chapters. He would have been like, he's gone, let's forget about him and move on. So that was already beginning, the cracks were beginning to show in his otherwise utilitarian worldview.
Because I do feel like me and you had a thread like a year ago, being like, oh, let's try and make Quinn and Owain friends, and it just never developed. Like, obviously it got to the point where there was, I think Quinn was definitely a character where it was like, if he didn't fully understand something, or if something wasn't explained to him fully, then it's just like, I've got no time for this. I feel like you said, once he started to soften, especially with Owain, because that's definitely the member of the party that he disliked the most. Once Owain was finally able to...
Ulysses was a close second.
yeah, that's true. For probably similar reasons. Once Owain had kind of let his guard down a bit, and I guess, from my perspective, the whole reason why he did it was, I need an ally right now, and obviously I've spent a lot of time with this person, so I should open up to them. Once that conversation, or several conversations had happened, which I think was just before he got kidnapped, so it was perfect timing, was when that finally started to develop. Which, but again, it's just always that thing where it's just like, where we've spoken about it, and I feel like there was a point where, as Simon was letting that sink through to Owain, being like, tell me about this. Where were you at this day? Why were you doing this? Blah, blah, blah. And it was like, he's not a detective, so that does feel very out of character. But it just kind of added a bit more. I'd say this, as a player, you're really, really good at diverting any kind of questioning. For the fact that you've been playing this character for about 2 years, and we still
don't really know
anything about you.
I wasn't deliberate. I just wasn't forthcoming.
Yeah, but again, there's always, as a player, like if someone is direct with you, there is always the should I say or whatever, and it wasn't a case of, wasn't lying or keeping secrets. He was just omitting things about his past. But once asked, was more than willing to give up that information. Whereas Owain, whether it was situationally or conversationally, was really good at not answering those questions. Or at least got to a point where characters were like, there's no fucking point asking him anything because we won't, even if he tells us something, who knows if that's true. Yeah. So it's very, very well played.
And I think that played in large part to the why is he giving these guys the benefit of the doubt? Like, and it not like I think for us two in particular, like immediate like undead bad, smite, kill him. But as soon as we found out, like, actually no, I've been involved with the cult as well. Like, certainly from Ulysses' perspective, it's like, what the fuck are you doing?
I see. There was option C, of course, which was kill the Fey twins, which keeps you guys happy, but then that be better than they are.
Yeah. Because now that seats up a grudge.
Yeah, and then become better and do. Now under new management, I wouldn't say what was it? I wouldn't say freed. I'd say under new management or whatever the thing is. So that was option C. If they turned out to be genuinely, if your suspicions had been correct,
they were right.
No one cares. Not playing anymore. They're all dead.
Well, we've got
they're liches.
Kind of.
But I guess we do have that.
So just as a quick point of order, we will be doing a 2 or 3 part one shot
epilogue,
just to kind of wrap up the end of the campaign, just to kind of see what happens with the Fey twins, and most people will be playing, which actually kind of somewhat fortuitously has kind of ended up being a case of their closest NPCs, which for most people is like a parental figure or like a mentor in some bizarre way. Like that's just the same for everybody. So that will be happening. So we won't talk too much about the Fey twins and what their ultimate goals and motivations were. But I mean, like most of this campaign was specifically written in with the thought process in mind of like what is evil, like what is bad. For the most part, it's just a perspective. Like from one person's point of view, the Jedi are evil. But yeah, like a lot of the times, like you'd be fighting someone and you'd be like, like are they bad or are they just have a different political point of view? Or is this person bad or is it just their faith? Like there was a lot of that, and so I kind of wanted that to be a through line throughout most of it. But just touching on you, like with you guys being like, oh, we don't trust him. I think maybe there was like 1 or 2 roles with that. All the rest of it was just RP and just you guys being like, yeah, I don't trust him, but fuck. Which was quite nice because it was just like an organic thing of like you guys kind of being like, oh, my character doesn't trust this person, but they don't not trust him enough to be like, fucking tell me everything.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly. It's like there's I had, if you pardon the wording, I had faith in Quinn that he'd be there when we needed him, situationally. The thing that burnt Ulysses up was like how he kind of felt like he was blind to what's clearly like something malicious, and it's like why are you giving them the benefit of the doubt? That doesn't make any sense to me. It's not my call to make, which is why there wasn't any like I want to roll insight, I want to like know what he's thinking. It's like
it was more exploratory. It was like let me try and actually I'd be lying if I say it wasn't like there was a maybe 10 to 15% was like actually it would be useful to have somebody on the inside just in case things do go tits up, and then I've got a little bit of inside knowledge that might help us if we need it. There was maybe like 10 to 15% was like let me pretend to be their friend. but 85% was like, let me get more power, and if it stops people dying, then that's just a nice benefit on top. So, playing both sides.
Smart. Yeah, it was great. I loved it. I loved that. Like, nothing that I did led to these lot being like, he's probably the BBEG. It's all just you, just RPing your character as you do.
Full disclosure, we didn't have any. There was no plans.
It wasn't on the table.
There was nothing.
Like,
no formal discussions were had. Other than that'd be fucking funny.
Was there like a? Because obviously, Owain did have quite a big. Quinn had quite a big character moment where he revealed himself to be like a tiefling, shapeshifter. And that was quite a big shock.
because I had my hat of disguise right at the start. Yeah.
Was there ever like another thing like that up his sleeve that we just never got to?
Only the ring.
Okay.
Which revealed itself at the end.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think. Yeah.
Okay.
Those two were like the two starting items I got to pick, and they were
right. Cool.
for
Yeah.
very express reasons.
Yeah. So any kind of suspicions we might have had, probably unfounded?
Well, I'll let you decide.
Yeah.
Well, now you know everything about it.
No, but there wasn't a third thing to make us be like, I fucking knew it.
No, not the big reveals. Just didn't
keeping options open.
Yeah, did want to learn more and be more powerful, and often the adventuring life leads to those paths organically anyway.
Yeah.
If a bunch of people are going to die, probably does want to stop that. He's not completely amoral.
Yeah.
So he probably would want to be like, hey, a bunch of innocent people probably should die, so I may as well help. But then we got into the muddy waters, as Nathan was saying, of is death necessarily a bad thing? If we stop that happening, is then everyone going to live forever and be super happy forever? And so then he's like, well, that seems like the logical conclusion of utopia is nobody dies anymore. So
It just felt like
then I don't have to save people. If there's no one to be saved, then you can just focus all your efforts on learning, and then everybody wins.
So between leaving the cult and us finding Quinn hanging out by a cave's mouth, just being there. What's the timeline on that?
No idea. Absolutely nothing.
Cool.
I wanted to save paper and didn't print an A4 page. That happened, and then we started the adventure.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Don't think I like the curtain being drawn back.
But that's the thing.
You're keeping me open.
That's often the thing, is whatever you're imagining is not gonna live up to what it ends, or vice versa. I will just say to anybody that's that watches Critical Role and happens to watch this, all of the stuff that's going on in campaign 3, I'd written most of this, or had planned most of this 2 years ago, because most of campaign 3, spoilers to anybody,
They're copying you.
There's a big plot point in it talking about getting rid of the gods, and so
I'd heard about that.
Yeah, and so when this was all happening, I was and their whole thing is severing gods and the life cycle of death and stuff. I was just shit. But yeah, just in case anybody draws that comparison, sometimes that just happens.
Parallels. It's not a one-to-one exactly the same thing.
No, I think we've got grounds to sue.
Could do with some money. So one thing that that I think we probably should address is the fact that we did lose a player just due to just stuff that went on behind the scenes, which is a shame, because from episode 27 to episode 52 is pretty much all driven by their plot, their backstory. So yeah, so that was a shame, and I think something for me and
Do you have a pipe?
No, I don't.
You still got part of the white wig.
Oh yeah. I left that down there with the rest of it.
But definitely something for me to kind of learn from is not to put that much emphasis on like a backstory at any given time. Like 5 to 10 sessions maybe is good, but yeah, like almost a third of the...
I guess you could put a lot of that down to this table's playing style, though.
Yeah.
We're all very
You guys...
easily distracted and, you know, when a bit goes...
Yeah, when something... Because, I mean, ultimately, him being taken is pointless at the phase and more directly.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
there's that element of it that is kind of like, okay, well, but, you know, you managed to work it into pointing us at the BBGs and...
Yeah, I mean, I had backups to it because the whole this bless you.
Excuse me. What?
It kind of tailored off when you guys started to leave the continent, but the whole like betrayer gods emblems being found in places of worship, that was all them. That was the Fey Twins as a way to draw power without being present on the material plane. Just pretend
so collecting like the Cloven Crystal.
Well, so like there was different places of worship where these guys would go, and they would find that there would be like a symbol of one betrayer god. They'd go to somewhere else, there'd be another symbol, and essentially that was the Fey Twins kind of channeling energy from them, worshipping them under the guise of whatever god it was, just because for a lot of these people they were just blind worshipping and being like, oh, finally they're talking to us. Yeah, absolutely. And this kind of tied in with your cult. They thought that they were actually talking to the Chained Oblivion, when actuality it's the Fate Twins being like, hey, just keep worshipping us. Yeah, just give us that juju, and that's what allowed them to cross back over to the material plane. So that would have come up anyway.
In fact, I was the first one that was against them in a way. If you think about it like that.
That would have been a thing. It would have been like you and Varn were kind of like, there's been a shift and none of this makes any sense, but you guys are just so like dogmatic that you're like, yeah, doesn't matter though. So yeah, it would have happened eventually, but yeah, I think that just kind of meant that we focused in on that a lot, and just, you know, players come and go from the table, and it happens all the time.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, just
I've lost 3.
Oh shit, really?
Yeah.
Oh damn.
Gained 1, lost 2.
Was there like any big set pieces or like plot points that you wanted to incorporate that we may have actually not got to, or did you kind of accomplish all the main story beats?
I mean, excluding the stuff towards the end,
yeah,
because of your early demise, which I think at some point we should probably just kind of go over that whole circumstance.
Yeah.
Not overly. Like there would be. I don't think I ever really planned a big encounter for the most part, because I knew that you guys were fucking dicks and would probably go some other place.
Yeah.
So it would only ever be like rough outlines. Then the only thing was, because you guys were crossing near the Xanic Plains, I'd planned that encounter if you guys went in there. Kind of wanted to be a little bit more off the road and give them time. There was the final fight of the Gauntlet of Cord, because I'd planned for you guys to win, but
so did we.
yeah. Yeah, I think hopefully in the next campaign I'll strike a better balance of combat in general, but no, for the most part you guys you kind of hit most of what I had planned. I think after Luxon was when I was like, I'm not investing as much into storylines just in case something like that happens again. Yeah, I think you did all right. Hit most things.
Fair enough.
Do we want to talk
Yeah,
about?
let's do it.
Yeah, let's
Okay.
get into it.
So,
What we do?
yeah.
Do you want to take a quick break?
Yeah, we'll take a quick break before we get into the meat and potatoes of why we're having to do this anyway. Lovely stuff. So we'll have a break for about. Oh, you've already done.
Yeah, sorry, I've gone back now.
Yeah.
Okay, right.
Straight in with it. Hello,
Is there a
everybody.
countdown normally?
There's normally a
Nah,
countdown.
you don't get that on me.
Hello, we're back. I hope you had a wonderful break. We ate food and relieved ourselves and spoke about Black Mirror. What's your favourite episode? Leave it in the comments below.
we won't acknowledge it.
I'll acknowledge it. I've got logins for all of the social media platforms, so at any time I might be like
Watching.
yeah,
He's watching.
always always watching Lebowski.
That was really good.
Thank you.
I'm really
Thank
happy
you.
you did that.
I hit the microphone.
Did I?
Why are you hitting the microphone with elastic bands? Where'd you get an elastic band?
I wrapped my crisp packet up with it earlier.
Well, how about you wrap your lips around these nuts?
Wow.
Started off. This is
Not
already
on my stream.
This is the post watershed half of the podcast.
Yeah, we're late.
George might let this stuff slide, but not me. I'll put us back on D&D.
He'll mute it.
I've got that power, maybe, if I work out how to do this.
Right. Okay.
Why we died.
So let's get into it. So let's talk about the final episode for this campaign, which has gone on for 3 years.
It's gone on long enough.
Forsaken. I thought it was an apt name.
Very good title.
Yeah.
That's the group's name after everything, after the tummy hums and
The death hums.
the death hums and
It's like a good evolution. Tummy hums evolved into death hums evolved into the Forsaken. It's
you weren't called the Forsaken until episode 34.
It wasn't until Ulysses was like,
facts.
don't call us that anymore, call us this now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was a lot later than that. My perception of time when playing this game is way off. I thought that was like 6 weeks ago. We settled on that.
So where do you want to start with this? Because I feel like a lot of this is just down to like circumstance.
Oh, for
As
sure.
in me and George
Lots
taking
of
time off
things.
and Rob taking time off.
Just a lot of things led up to this, and I think even to a certain extent, just like builds and just decisions that have ultimately led to this point.
There's stuff that if we knew at the beginning of that final fight that we know at the end, we might have survived. If we knew that leaving would have caused it to stop floating, that we would have had a good shot of killing it. I think, like I said to George, because I remember seeing him at work the following day, and he wasn't doing brilliantly, bless him. I think you think that's fair.
Yeah, no, that's fair to say. I was gutted, proper gutted.
The idea that like going in with any source of light was going to wake this thing up, I think realistically I was never going to fare well in complete darkness. Wouldn't have wanted to take the risk because we understood what was at stake. I think we probably would have done the same thing in that regard. That still would have gone down the way it did. But yeah, if we'd known to draw it down and by what means, that would have changed things pretty significantly. Yeah.
I mean, I'll try not to say too much because I don't want this to be like me explaining away everything that you guys bring up. Just more of like a
Like I said, I don't think we would have done a lot differently. It just played out the way it did.
There is a small part of me that, as the rogue of the party, probably could have done better with kind of sneaking in and reconning. I think, and again, this is a word of warning to anyone that wants to metagame. I think as soon as I knew that Owain couldn't see and was in pitch black, in my mind I was like, this fight will go so wrong if we don't just get stuck in. And I shouldn't have. I should have gone, no, that's metagaming. I wouldn't know that. So I'm going to do the rogue thing and I'm going to sneak in, and I've got dark vision, although dark vision is the running joke of our campaign. I think it's the running joke of every campaign, right? But yeah, I should have probably gone, cool, I'll do the rogue thing. I've got dark vision. I'll sneak in. It'll be at disadvantage, but I can get in, find out what's going on, and we can go in with a bit more info. But yeah, I think probably messed up there a bit.
Yeah, it's weird because like for the most part, you guys only fought an 8 triple because George, I think it was George, said, "Oh, why don't we use that mini?
Don't you put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby! Don't you do it!"
Because it's new and it'll look cool." And I was like, "Yeah, sure." Why not? That makes sense. But if we hadn't have fought that, we might have, or you lot might have fought a dragon, because that was, I think, you recommended fighting a dragon.
Very offhanded comment, yeah. But
yeah. So that was one thing that I was like, oh, it might be.
Could have had the same issues.
Yeah.
Not being able to get close and
you fought a hag because part of this, I mean, I feel like a lot of this started to culminate from episode. Sorry, this is probably throwing you guys off. Episode 61/41 for podcast, A Day of Reckoning, which is when you guys had the fight with Lanix.
Mm-hmm.
okay.
I feel like that was like the genesis of everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was that early crit that had him like, oh, hang on, I need to take this guy seriously.
Yep.
Us having to fight him in darkness. Yeah.
I mean, so yeah, there's a few episodes in there, so, you know, feel free to either just say what you want to say, we can talk about stuff, we can ask questions, whatever you want to do.
How much do you think it was your fault? That's a sincere question.
I
want to get behind the screen.
So I feel like maybe towards the tail end of that stream, it was fairly, I was maybe a bit deflated. I appreciate both of you two for coming over, and I had a bit more of a frank discussion with you, where I was just like, I don't want to DM anymore, because I felt like shit, because this has been like 3 years of telling a story and it's ending kind of earlier, especially, but ending earlier when we're so close to the end, and I just felt like I had failed and let you lot down. So to a certain extent, I'd say at least a large portion of it was my fault. Yeah, I felt really bad.
Nah, wrong answer.
Yeah, such shit.
Respectfully, it's not your fault.
No.
Like it's you know, it's the same with like it's down to luck of the rolls. Like I think one thing I will credit you with as doing really well as a GM is not pulling punches and playing opponents in particular as though you were playing a PC. Like you thought, well, like this character, if they do take a bunch of damage early on, they're not gonna kind of toy with these people anymore. They're gonna take them seriously.
Yeah.
Which he did. Which is absolutely at no point has it been unfair.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think the only thing that's ever kind of made me feel, because combat throughout this entire campaign has always been like a bit of a sticking point, because there's been times where you guys just breeze through it and it's been fine. Like the one that always sticks to or springs to mind is the one when you fought the gnolls outside of Monolum. Like you planned it, you recce'd, you went through and slowly, methodically took them all out. You focused on one big guy, took him out, and then you took out the other one, and like that was, I think, a hard encounter. Which, by the way, D&D Beyond, fucking sort out your CR system. Like it's bullshit. It makes no sense.
That's 5th edition.
Nah, I'm calling them out. Yeah.
key difference there is we had 2 significant damage dealers at that point.
Yeah. Which the CR system doesn't really take that in. It just sees 3 level 12s. Oh, they'll be able to handle this.
Yeah.
So yeah, combat's always been a bit of a weird thing, but I think to a certain extent, probably what I probably need to do is take a step back and not think of what I would do in that situation, and just be like, what could happen? Because in my mind, I was like, okay, they're going to start getting these exhaustion levels, and they're going to be like, we can't stay in here, and they'll leave pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But it just didn't work out that way.
Yeah, because you get to a certain point and you can barely move, and it's like, right, okay, well let's start. What was the code word we had?
Grapefruit.
Yeah.
Grapefruit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So grapefruit. And yeah, didn't have the speed necessary to.
Yeah.
And if we'd known by starting to leave it'd come down. If we'd just been like, cool, let's get him out, and then it's like, oh, we can get him and then go and get the diamonds, then our plan wasn't much of a plan.
No, and I there was part of me that kind of, when we started doing the session, I was like, is everybody just expecting to die? Because when you guys just started going in, and I had to like say to George, like, how much what health are you on? Do you want to take a short rest? That's when I was like, oh, maybe we are just gonna be like, cool, we're gonna
stare into the abyss.
Yeah.
Because like I said, if my intention was to get him and go.
Yeah. Which as soon as you said that, I was like, okay.
Yeah. But then it was like, well, we need diamonds. So get the diamonds, then go.
Yeah. And I specifically put that in there because I was like, I know they're going to want to get them. It'd be like greed, or do we can sort Quinn out another day?
Yeah, and it wasn't greed from like my perspective. It wasn't greed. It was like, oh, this is a necessary thing that we need to be able to do what we need to do. Mm-hmm. So it's on the list, like, get away and leave. Get away and get the diamonds. Leave. Get away and get the diamonds. Oh, what is that? Leave. Which, yeah, that greed maybe. That's
it would have been a sick item.
Yeah.
Yeah. It like again. There was just like a lot of it is fog of war. Like, you get into it and you kind of forget about a lot of stuff. Like, I was fully expecting them to be like, hey, we've got you in a ring, Quinn. Do you know anything about this? And then you could have made a roll, because you'd already made a roll about the woods themselves. So once everybody kind of got in there, I was like, okay, maybe they're lean on you a little bit. There was the sending stone to Lannis that you were just like, nah, I don't know what that is. And that was another thing that I was like, oh, maybe they're then indebted to the twins, and it just makes this weird, awkward, like, end game thing where you're like, oh, we want to kill you, but you did help us out. So again, further leaning into, are they bad guys? I mean, they've got like a bad goal.
Yeah.
They saved us. There's a deck of many things. I thought someone might have, like, Hail Mary, I pull 4 cards just to see if something that saves us.
I think for me, it was just panic. I think because Quinn was like the closest player to Sabine, and the fact that he was dead, and that we knew that Owain was trapped, and he was the only one that could bring Quinn back, meant that I just got blindsided by panic, and just was like, we need to get in there as soon as possible, get Owain out to heal him. From a game perspective, Sabine didn't know there were diamonds in there, so she was just getting in, firing to try and kill this thing, or at least distract it, so that we could get Owain out and then get gone. But obviously it didn't pan out that way in the end. So yeah, and as far as all the other options, like deck of many, it's just not. I'm not that. Sabine wasn't going to be like risking stuff. She knew that the most logical option was get Owain out so we can get our boy resurrected. That was it.
Who had that?
It was left on Malone's body.
I wanted to take it, but then I got such a guilt trip from Sabine. Just like, you're not. I was like, no, I'm just making sure you still got it. And then, I'll put it back.
The chances of the deck saving us though is very small.
Yeah.
Very small, but that's why you have things like divine intervention.
If you draw the wish,
very small, but
if you draw the one that gives you a D3 wishes.
Yeah,
But I wish it
52,
couldn't-
how many cards are in there?
No, it's
oh,
not
it's less than that. It's like
13 or
25.
12? Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so it's in the team.
I wish that our party was alive and back together.
Mm.
I wish that the Lanix is... No, can't do that, because then you're like, cool, you bounced forward 1,000 years.
Yeah. But that was another thing. I thought that Sabine was going to go in and do like a recce, because I know that there was no light down there, but that just would have meant that she would have had disadvantage on perception.
Mm.
But she still would have been sneak as fuck. So the creature would have... She probably wouldn't have necessarily found you, but at least would have been able to kind of get an idea of terrain. The creature itself could have like chucked a stone down the hole and all sorts of things. And then been like, well, I can't really tell what that is, but it's fucking massive. We're gonna go think of this. But it just seemed like it was a real like, and again, maybe this is my failings as a DM of setting like time frames in previous sessions, and I don't know if that meant that like when it came to this one, everybody was kind of like, we need to get this done, we need to get in there.
There did feel like a degree of urgency.
Yep, 100%. There was that kind of panic mode of we just need to get in there and get done ASAP. And I think, again, metagaming, which I did, like knowing that Owain couldn't see shit, meant that even if I snuck in, figured it out, and we then tried to sneak back in to get him, he wouldn't have been able to have get out there. He would have fallen down that hole again, or something bad. Basically, whatever was going to happen, whether I snuck in and reconned, and then I snuck in to try and get Owain out, getting him out was always going to bring its attention. So we were always going to get into combat with it. I can't see a scenario where we didn't get into combat with it, and it was the combat that killed us. And even if we'd sped out of there as quickly as possible, like 120 feet is quite a distance, and I would have failed on those con saves every fucking round regardless. So, yeah. But then I could play it better. I could have done more rogue shit, and that was what I was meant to do, so...
I think partly just because of the situation we were like, we'd just come off of a plane crash. Like people were hurt, people had been displaced and stolen by giant babies, and it was like, no, like we've got places to be, like the world is ending potentially, so we kind of have to hustle.
Or about to get very better, depending on your...
Again, from Rob and you, the season's perspective, I don't believe them. I'm pretty sure they're lying. When they say no one's going to die anymore, it's because there's no one left alive.
I think there was only one insight check against them, and that was from Sabine, and it was just way too low. So it's just like, yeah, they seem to be telling the truth.
Yeah. Pure intentions.
Yeah.
Good on that.
Going out and doing something about it, you know?
Yeah.
About time someone did.
So we've often, well, pretty much throughout the entire campaign, we've had the rule of if one person's away, we carry on playing. Maybe we need to rethink that rule. But I mean, like the combat that you, Danilo, had with Sabine, George, and Mark, that was according to D&D Beyond, that was a medium encounter, and that was just
a slaughter.
It went south real quick.
Combat is more an art than it is a science. As in, there are CR half creatures that can two-shot like a level 20 character.
Yeah, there's ones that can like drain your strength, and if it's a wizard, they're done.
Yeah. So you shouldn't just go. Like, I don't just go off of that or CR, because that makes designing combat like 3 times as long, because you have to interrogate every stat block for like every small little thing that could completely swing the fight in one go. But yeah, it is much more of an art than it is a science, because the CR is very much a
imperfect.
It's a suggestion.
that boundary between. But the scale is from completely harmless to will kill you, and it only shifts like 5% either way from easy to deadly. And it's just within that is how you want to do it.
Yeah. But I mean, like the combat with, because this was in Separate Pieces Part 2, where Mark's character went out and was paralysed for 2 rounds, I think, which just left you and Sabine. And I mean, you know, you got pretty close, but yeah, just some really bad rolls. I think when we were doing it, Mark rolled for Malone. He rolled 3 times.
For his death saves, he had got awful rolls that whole session.
Yeah,
because he failed his getting out of his paralysis 2 turns, well, plus the initial turn, and then his 3 death saves are 2-2-2. So out of probably the 10 dice he rolled, 6 of them were less than 5.
Yeah. Mad. Yeah, I mean, like, kind of jumping around a little bit with the atriple. Yeah, it didn't really attack you too much. It only really attacked you.
Yeah.
Owain, for podcast listeners. Yeah, it only really attacked you, but that was because you dealt radiant damage to it.
Yeah, so definitely quite its ire.
Yeah, but then for everybody else, it was because I think Sabine maybe ended with full health.
But she exhausted to death.
Exhausted to death. Which even when I was reading it, because I was like, cool, I will run this where it takes a lot of the onus off of me. It's very much about your roles and what you guys do in this situation. Yeah, and I was like, oh, exhaustion is normally one of those things that I don't think anybody really takes it seriously, because most of the time it's like 1 or 2 levels and you're like, cool, I'll just long rest it off. It's fine. So the concept of it being like, oh, you can die from exhaustion. It takes 6 rounds, which most of the time combat is like 4.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was really intriguing to me. But yeah, I just didn't realise how bad it can get.
Because when it's disadvantage on saves,
Which I think is from 4 onwards. 3 or 4 onwards, yeah.
and to not get a further step is a con save, but you're rolling a disadvantage. It's tricky. It's really tricky. It's like, you have to act quickly and kind of nip it in the bud, or
You've done so.
Yeah. Any specific questions about those kind of like last 3-4 sessions?
I think I asked this at the time. How close were we to actually doing anything to Lanix?
Lanix was, I think he was doing too well. I can find a book that has all of the hit points in there, and I will be able to tell you.
I don't need to know specifics. Just was he low? Did we get him low?
I think you got him down to like half. The crit at the beginning really fucked his shit.
Yeah.
Fucking super proud of that crit. One of the best rounds of damage that Sabine's ever done on the big bad. Fuck you. Yeah, no. Although it basically meant that the ship crashed and then we all died, maybe it wasn't the trigger for it. I don't know, but regardless, really happy that first round of combat against the big bad, I just went fucking all in and dealt a whole shit ton of damage. So yeah, cool. Happy with that.
Out of curiosity, if there was like an instance, and it'd be very unlikely, where we somehow, crit followed by crit followed by crit, and he just went down. Did you have a contingency?
Would he stay down or would he come back for that?
I had to come back.
Yeah.
It would take some time, but he would come back. His brother would bring him back. But the thing would have been is that he wouldn't have had his sword, which gives him stuff.
The big,
Yeah.
like Elden Ring style rift blade.
The ability to bring people back. Isn't that great?
So Lanix got down to 67 HP.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
It's like 2 crit smites.
Yeah.
Even like 1 really good crit smite.
Yeah, and you know, it was the kind of darkness, because again, we kind of, myself and Dan, like, kind of talked shop about it a little bit and kind of spoke about how that kind of slowed combat right down. But I was of the mindset of like, yeah, but like an AoE, like you guys had dynamite from the warehouse that you'd gone to. I thought maybe someone would have lobbed that in there to like blow them out, but again, like when you're in
not
like
on board
combat,
the ship.
Yeah.
While we're airborne, sending an explosive onto the deck doesn't seem like a.
But as it was going down, I was just like, oh, yeah, AoE, push them out of there or do something to kind of get them out. And your dispel, just one slot higher, and it would have been fine.
Yeah.
Because they were like essentially warlocks, so they only had 2 5th level spells each.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just little things.
Yeah.
It's little things.
That taught Quinn to prepare Dispel Magic, but then didn't get a chance to use it.
Sorry. For your loss.
Had Quinn seen the caster, I would have magic missile the shit out of him.
Yeah.
To make him fail his concentration checks, so.
Yeah.
But didn't get a chance because he didn't have the sword.
Yeah, magical darkness. They can see right through it.
I did ask some friends about how the niche interaction works with the homunculus and seeing through its vision, as to whether that would count for Quinn to be able to see the other side of the darkness, because he's seeing through the vision of the homunculus, who was like a UAV, but that got into very weird niche edge case like interpretation of.
Good, I'm glad that you had that argument
stuff
with someone else.
Yeah, I didn't bog us down at the time, because I knew it would be like, everyone stop.
Yeah.
Is there a sage advice article on this? Like,
No,
Jeremy Perkins.
I think my other group of guys, and it was, they basically said yes, but maybe with some kind of disadvantage is the ruling, because you're having to account for like a different
perspective.
You're shooting here, but you're looking at yourself shoot, so you can't.
Yeah.
Even with magic missile, you're still kind of broadly aiming in the right direction. So, so that was their jurisdiction.
Yeah.
What are the consequences of losing?
Not a tremendous amount. I don't think any of you really had cursed items, so you don't have to worry about that. Essentially the long and short of it will be that minor spoilers, it's mainly just the kind of setup which we'll kind of breeze through anyway, but Madame Ganser and Roland will be like, they've been gone for way too long. They then head up to Stonehaven, kind of touch base, make some connections. Varn will rock up and be like, hey, I'm looking for this dude, you know him? And they're like, yeah, we're actually about to send a load of people to go look for him. And Varn will likely just be like, oh, sure, I'll check that out too. They go in, we're explain away why they, get past the H-triple, but they find your bodies in various forms.
Sheer numbers.
Yeah, there's a lot of them, and
still hasn't recovered.
Shoot, baby.
Yeah.
Rooms. Sweat with a bit of water.
Take some warm milk. We should have done that. We should just, after the first one, it's just like...
No, if it was a big baby...
That's what George said.
They should all just walk past. Like that.
Can't see us.
That's it.
Peekaboo!
So much shock here. Yeah.
Just dies.
Yeah.
Existential crisis.
Yeah.
But he wasn't there, and now he's there.
What does this mean?
Yeah, George said that. He was just like, just after the first round, should have just covered my ears.
But would that have helped? Was it a psychic thing or was it an audible thing?
Audible thing.
Was it exclusively only an audible thing?
Mm-hmm.
Damn. Does it say that in the special rules for it? Because I know for like Basilisk it will say the player can attempt to not look at it and then it can't see it, but it doesn't get affected by the Basilisk's looks. In that, does it say something similar that the players can attempt to cover their ears and then they get...
Find out for you.
I guess can't attack because they've got no free hands?
Yeah.
So in fact, what benefit would that have done?
You'd have to fashion
Because
makeshift.
we couldn't have jumped over a hole, we couldn't have tied up any ropes, you'd screwed either way. So, not to be
No, I mean...
to poo-poo Sabine's otherwise great idea. You idiot.
Yeah. I kind of wish I hadn't looked up the stat block of the Atropole afterwards, because as soon as I saw that it wasn't in-game, I wasn't really thinking that it could just be sound. I thought maybe it was like psychic or something and it would have got him regardless, the whole wail. But as soon as I read on the stat block it was just audible, I was like, I've got like spell components like gum or something. I could have just plugged my ears and then I would have at least been able to have stayed up in the fight a little bit longer, or just got out of there when it got really bad. So Sabine lived and the rest of them fucking died. But yeah, heat at the moment. Can't think like that, right?
Just verbal casting only.
Yeah.
It just says any creature within 120 feet of the Atropole that can hear the wail must succeed.
So the alternative would have been to
Yeah, so I think...
DM's fear whether you'd still be able to hear an eldritch screech if just by doing this.
Yeah, I think I would have done something along the lines of like, if you can plug your ears with something, like of substance, then I'll say, okay, you get like advantage, or it just means that if you go to cast a spell that's got verbal components, you can't, because you can't hear yourself, and so it messes up. Something along those lines, because then it would have been the sort of thing of like, again, if you had a caster with you, silence.
Oh yeah.
Cool, let's just fire away.
The cleric in my campaign uses that all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, my first character had that. It was I agreed with the DM instead of darkness because it was a tiefling rogue.
Oh,
so instead of darkness, kind of silence. Because he had the assassin feat, and it's like, that's way more valuable.
Yeah. Or to temporarily deafen ourselves with like a loud noise outside first. Air horning each other's ears. Yeah, fucking. I'm good to go.
Just ringing, nothing but ringing.
Tinnitus.
But yeah, so then they'll get in there, they'll find your bodies. Varn will likely find the ring.
Oh yeah.
And then from there it'd just be a case of heading on to. We'll probably start the one shot with the silver dragon that you guys kind of briefly met.
Sarsil?
Sarsil, yeah.
Nice.
Hey.
Don't have a laptop in front of me.
Flying you over to the Valley of the Giants, just so we can start straight.
Yeah.
Getting into it.
I did have a question about Halvar.
Yes.
If he's made aware of the extent of the situation, he would probably appeal to the Lord or the King or whoever it is that's in charge to mobilise a lot of people.
They already have something to worry about.
Okay. Cool.
Another big baby.
Another bigger baby.
It's
bigger baby.
Even bigger. Yeah.
Even louder.
The biggest baby you've ever seen, just crawling across this snow chunk. Like,
Attack on Titan.
you're gonna have sex with the bees and the eagles. Cool. Okay. Well, unless there's anything else, I guess just. Does anybody have ideas of what they're going to do in the next campaign?
Ask them.
Character-wise?
But before we go on to that though, who are we playing in the trip shot? 3 shot, 2 shot?
I'll be playing Halvar Armstrong,
No relation.
Renowned. He's his daddy. Renowned general of the Northern Territories. Very battle-hardened, very stoic. I'm thinking Oath of the Ancients paladin, because it's not necessarily god, it's more just like protecting the realm, without it being like the one to like a king, because I don't like the idea of that. So,
Crown?
yeah, I don't like Oath of the Crown so much, but Oath of the Ancients is like the realm, like the world.
So, just as a quick aside, talking about stuff that was missed, I don't know if you remember when you guys were fighting in the Gauntlet of Corden, that white dragon was like smelt Ulysses and was like, I recognise you or something like that. That's because your dad had killed a white dragon, which was that dragon's like parent.
Ooh. Oh.
And so just like recognised the scent of an Armstrong.
That's so cool.
And it was going to be like you'd go up there and you'd fight one of the other ones, but just a little.
That's cool.
Just a little thing.
Nice.
I might have to redesign one Hero Forge now to have like a dragon skull.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Sai?
So I'll be playing as Sayri.
The one and only.
Yeah, she's fine.
Never forget a name.
Sayri Samir,
AKA
surname
Shireen.
She is Owain's mentor and part-time, one-time lover. She was a temple knight of Seldarine, so she was quite high up in the rankings, despite, I guess she was probably the youngest full graduate of the temple. Trying to think if I should stay in War Cleric domain or do some kind of fighter with healing capabilities. So, because in my head she's more about combat than as like a teacher than she is about the healing side of it. But yeah, that's what I'll be going for.
Nice. And we've kind of, I think we've already kind of touched on that she will have the moon blade.
Yes.
So the roles that I got you to do, you'll finally find out what attributes they gave the moon blade.
Amazing.
What's that? What is that?
So the moon blade is the kind of sword that
everyone has been after.
Yeah, Mordecus, Frederick, Owain, they've all been after.
And then Sammy just turns up with it. Are you looking for this?
I had this for
It's somewhere in here.
Yeah, we're explaining it away.
Swords. Excalibur.
What's the Halo sword?
So because Mordecus knew of it, and I think in my headcanon was that if he had that, then he wouldn't have to transform as much, because it was part of the job he had to do, but it wasn't necessarily something he liked. Frederick wanted it because it was shiny and it would grant him power, and Owain was like, oh, Sainin would fucking love it if I to kill undead for the next 100 years. So, but Sayri, I guess, knew of it. Well, she is the one who told Owain of its existence. It's like a myth amongst Moonshavians that exists.
Yeah, so for the most part that'll end up being a case of she was kind of more of the mindset of, oh, it's a myth, but the Deslington twins are like, no, it is a thing and we want it.
Yes.
It looks cool.
Because we have tons of artifacts.
Yeah. And so because of you passing away, it'd be a case of she gets it and she kind of runs away with it, and
Nice.
You're the only one with not a mentor, parental figure coming in your stead.
He's just a dude. He's just a bro.
Is this one going to be steeped in mystery as well?
No, it's going to be annoyingly forthcoming.
Incredibly blunt. Just
Do what's it called? Mash effect. where whoever leaves the show is replaced by their complete opposite.
Yeah. Another, I guess, I don't know if we ever decided if he was former cult or still in. Last we spoke, he was still in, but is he now?
Yeah, because the essentially when he started messaging you,
he was like, "I'm going to get out as well." Yeah,
because that was supposed to be the origin of him being like, I think something else is speaking to these lot, and I don't trust that.
Yeah. So he's also the same cult that Quinn was in, and they were just like best buds, you know, as much as you can be when you're doing kind of bad culty activities. But, you know, shared interests, and they got on well, seeing as Quinn left his family to join this cult. It was, you know, a surrogate brother in a way. But then when Quinn was like, I'm going to get out because this is whack, Barn was like, we've not reached my limit yet, so I'll hang around for a little bit more. But he didn't begrudge Quinn for leaving.
Give me more ritual sort of thing.
And so then that was it, you know, another hard farewell for Quinn, which is perhaps the reason why I didn't want to get so close, because he was like everyone I've ever known just to say goodbye to in some way or another. So he said, I don't want to do that again, and he had to do it again.
Further feeds into why, you know, the twins have a good idea.
Yeah, exactly. Then you never have to say goodbye to anyone. Yeah, that's really well done. And then you guys die, and you do get taken away from him again. So well done,
dicks.
Yeah.
I'm serving a greater purpose. I don't know what you want.
So he'll be a wizard. I did debate. I haven't decided on the subclass yet. I might be necromancy, just to really piss off you guys.
From Halvar's perspective, it will be like a really pragmatic, like more numbers, good, right. Anything for an advantage. They go away after a while though, right?
Sure thing.
Cool.
Definitely don't eat your brains. To holding them back. Shh. Frederick. Or I'm not too attracted to the graviturgy, which is like the sister to the chronomancy.
It's like
Dunamancy? I can't remember which one it is. Yeah. Although they've got some wicked, insane, like 9th level spell, which is like create a fucking black hole or something, and just
bonkers.
Yeah, that's great. But otherwise, I'm not too attracted to the theming of it. Yeah. Necromancy is good, and it's a good opportunity to try it because it only really starts to wind up until you're past like level 10 in terms of the spells and special features you get for Necromancy. At earlier level, you're just like a shitty cleric sometimes with like touch of death or whatever it is, brief respite or whatever it is to stop people from dying. That's the word, I think. Some combination of those
gentle
words.
Repose.
That's it, yeah.
And spare the dying, yeah.
And none of the rest are too fitting or too interesting. Could just play it safe and just go evocation and just fireball, and turn my brain off. Because you can sculpt around, so you don't hit allies, so you can just keep dropping it, and the blink will be there for sure. Never leave home without it.
It failed you against the hag.
Yes, it did, but
only like once.
Yeah, I think actually that was the most success I'd ever had. I think I manually turned it off because I needed to do other stuff, because I needed to be on the field, so it wasn't just Sabine getting
pummeled.
Yeah, I wanted to split the damage, so I had to manually turn it off, but it passed 2 out of 3 times that time. Never again. Quinn ain't never making that mistake again. 24/7 blink. All interactions. 1 second. I'll be right back. Beep, beep.
So I can still see you and hear you. I'm on the ethereal plane. Can you hear me? Hello?
Blink. Right. Yes,
Okay.
I would like to buy these tomorrow. So yeah, I need to look at building a character and stuff, but otherwise it'll be fun.
You've got 2 weeks. So.
Yeah.
No, more than
that.
Yeah, unless we do record earlier at some point. In case George doesn't edit or put something of himself in, he is playing Satine, Sabine's mum.
Sayri.
Smee.
Shree.
Smee.
Shmee, yeah.
Smee. Yeah, he's playing Satine, who, after a botched assassination attempt on Reinhardt, has been imprisoned for X amount of time, and then after hearing about Sabine's death, Madame Ganser and Roland send Screech over there to bust her out. And that's why she comes over and it's just like, I'm gonna fucking kill anybody that had anything to do with her death.
She sounds like a wonderful woman.
Yeah.
She's a badass. She almost killed Frederick.
She did, yeah.
Just straight up shanked you when you were like, who's that stranger going into that room? I'll go in there.
Frederick was just a bit of a chancer though, wasn't he? He was like, woman, sneaking into my bedroom. Give me 10 minutes, lads. Just get stabbed.
Yeah, just to add a bit more on that. Yeah, really looking forward to playing Satine, Sabine's mum. I think it would be nice to play it'd almost be like looking into Sabine's future if her entire life hadn't been fucked up from childhood as to what Sabine could have been like. So this really kind of aggressive, kind of doesn't really give a shit about anybody else, very kind of anti-teamwork and more all about themselves kind of character. So get ready for me being a much less fun, I guess Sabine was fun, much less fun character, a much more serious character. I say that now, when I get around the table with them lot, it will go out the fucking window. But yeah, a much more serious character who's in it for one thing only, and that will probably get explained as the one shot, 3 shot, whatever it's going to be, goes on. But yeah, really excited to play Satine, her mum, full assassin, like however many levels Nathan's going to give us, all of it's going to be rogue, assassin, just straight down that line. So lots of sneak attack, lots of sneaking around, and yeah, a French accent. I think a few episodes, like 20 episodes back, Nathan played Satine, so I've been rewatching those to get her accent down. I think it's like a French kind of accent, so yeah, really excited to play her. She's gonna be badass. Hopefully isn't gonna have to kill any player characters again, but if them lot get in her way, they're gonna die.
I was going to ask, as like moving the conversation, pivoting a bit, is there anything as a DM you're like really proud of in terms of like a gameplay moment or a storytelling moment or a reveal, or if we might have developed something, I hadn't thought of that, I'll incorporate that or whatever.
Yeah. Just to cap off, I think Satine is full assassin. Rogue assassin.
Nice.
Yeah, just
straight down the middle.
Yeah. I guess. For starters, everybody distrusting Quinn. Just loved that because it was just so natural and organic, and it didn't come from anything other than kind of slowly people outside of the game realizing or just being like, wait, what do we know about this guy? So that was quite nice and organic. I really like that. Just little Quinn. You look kind of sexy.
Yeah, this is really doing it for me.
Yeah, you like it? Is it the combination of the hat and the moustache?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I feel like I'm in a Jean-Paul Gaultier ad. Yeah, there it is.
Oh yeah.
Everyone speak French.
Is this okay with TOS?
Yeah.
Whoa. So I was personally really happy with the reveal of Madame Ganser and how they identified.
Yeah,
because that was like since like session 5.
Okay, amazing.
And it just, because you guys left Lux and I was like, oh, that's never going to come up.
Yeah.
Oh well, that's never mind. And it's just really fun to kind of play around with that, because I think loads of people did like insight checks and were like, why does she like Ulrich? That's really weird. So that was quite a nice reveal.
And to your credit, you played it really well.
I was a little bit worried about it, but
no, I think there's a way of like ham-fisting stuff like that, and the way you told the story and like develop that, it just came across like very natural.
Yeah.
And
Heartfelt.
like, yeah, it was kind of like, oh, well, that just makes complete sense.
Yeah, it was just trying to find a way to bring that sort of thing into the fantasy realm and what that equivalent would be, and magic seemed like the most obvious way of kind of moving around like gender and kind of what you believe yourself to be. So yeah, I think I quite enjoyed most of the stuff that happened on the ship.
Yeah, that was very fun.
Yeah, there was a lot of good bits on there. The flirting with the captain, with Quinn.
Because we're all out at sea.
Yeah.
And there's no rules or laws. Anything could happen.
Maritime law is super loosey-goosey.
It is.
Yeah, I hoped... I don't think... Because he was... Captain Kendrick Zorander was a man of colour, and I feel like I didn't do anything that was offensive, and it was just like trying to represent other people because, you know, we're all white guys.
Yeah, I guess as a white person, headcanon, that's what you immediately imagine.
Yeah, and I was just like, of course this is him, but I was like, I don't want to be disrespectful, but I also want to have some element of representation. I
really enjoyed the first mate, like the one who was just fed up with our shit by the end of the first day.
Yeah.
I think every interaction with her was like very fun.
Ulysses wanted to be her friend so badly.
Yeah.
It was just like, you seem like really, like, I can learn from you, and you're like, cool, let's, hi, hello.
Yeah.
And then just immediately shut down every opportunity, like, it's like, okay.
Unfortunately, so, like, their kind of, like, their history is you guys were probably, like, the 10th set of people that Zorander has been like, these people are cool, and she's been like,
they're never cool.
Never cool.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that little stretch of gameplay for... Like, I feel like there was quite a bit of character development for Owain in there, because obviously he had all the Hilden stuff. Yeah. But there was a session, as bad as it was for Ulysses, where him and Owain sparred.
Yeah.
He kind of wiped the floor with them.
And Ulysses is like...
I did kind of...
What happened?
And I even remember as we were playing, I was trying to incorporate it, and everyone made a comment that Owain was just a lot more confident. And I think part of that was obviously I was like, he's meant to be a fighter, but I never really lean in, like, obviously as a war cleric, way more comfortable as a healer. Never really leaned too much into the combat stuff. So I was just like, as someone playing that class, it was like really fulfilling, but also as a character to be like, hey, what I've learned actually does apply in the real world. Was actually quite a cool thing. But that was like one of my favourite portions of gameplay was the whole setting of the boat.
Yeah. I kind of wanted to explore this continent a little bit more, just because it was a lot more kind of gothic and Brothers Grimm, and like I really like that as like a backdrop, like kind of even pushing so far as into like cosmic horror and like Bloodborne kind of stuff. Like I really wanted to kind of delve into that a little bit more, but maybe in the next campaign. Does anybody, because we kind of spoke about who you're going to be in the one shot, any ideas or any theming or anything like that you've got in mind for the next campaign? I mean, it's very early doors, so
I've already got my heart set on probably a cleric from Moonshadows.
Moonshavian?
Yeah. Moonshavian. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, the name should be Moon, though. The character's name should be Moon. It's just a subtle nod.
Just a subtle nod, yeah.
Hey, I'm Moon. From the Moonshadows.
No relation. I'm drawing a blank. I want to try something new. There's still been playing D&D for about 7 years now, and there's still quite a lot of classes I've never even rolled for fun, let alone played. So
I mean, even if you've played a lot of them, like since we've started, so in like 3 years, there's so many subclasses now. It's mad.
Like, part of me was like, I do at some point want to go back to Bloodhunter, but to me that still feels very recent. So, yeah.
Well, we might be in
try something else.
We might be in 6th edition realms at that time. In which case, if anyone picks a warlock, that's had some substantial changes.
I don't like it.
No one likes it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, very rough kind of ideas for the second campaign. It's going to stray less away from kind of ambiguous morality and more into just straight up, just evil
There's a baddie.
kaijus.
Yeah.
It's just big things, and
In that case, because I was torn between I want to go either full spellcaster or barbarian, and I'll probably go barbarian in that case.
yeah. The only thing is that I need someone to have some sort of a patron, because that's why. Because the Cloven Crystal that you guys found in this one, it was just like a link to the next campaign, and that kind of ties into the crystals that kind of kept popping up all over the place. So I just need someone to have some sort of link to that. But yeah, it's just going to be just a bit more classic.
I might play as Armstrong Ulysses.
I'll just be Sari. In terms of like setting, same world but just a bit far down in the future, or something completely new.
Again, planned all of this before campaign 3 of Critical Role, but it's going to be set in Taikahan, which is like a desert place.
My barbarian character works perfectly then.
Yeah.
So, I've already got him built from an old campaign that ended after like 2 sessions. Leonin barbarian.
Nice.
Yeah. I've got a mini for him. Like I'm
Good to go.
Cool.
So it'd be around about 20 years later, which is kind of why we needed to do the one shot, because I was like, I need to know what happens.
Yeah.
Well, don't tell us, but have you made plans for if we fail again?
Yep.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I mean, if you fail to DM us again, sorry. As well.
Sorry, yeah, because I did mess up. But yeah, 20 years later, set in Taikahan, which is a shame that Sabine is dead, because I kind of planned on her being a prominent figure in that landscape. But
And she will be. Resurrection. Come on. She's coming back in a big way. She's going to own a vineyard. She's going to make wine. There's going to be a one-shot at some point where there's a murder mystery at her vineyard. It's going to be great. So don't worry about that. We'll workshop that. It's fine.
I mean,
Well, we'll see how Satine gets on.
yeah, and also if the bodies are recovered, there's nothing stopping her being a retired adventurer in Taikahan.
Or
They're in the baby's belly now. The belly of the baby.
She get it.
the baby
or maybe
cast into the hole.
the Gauntlet of Corge, she inspired a little tiefling in the crowd who modelled their whole persona on her.
So
That's cool.
That is like, you guys will always be in their like halls as like one of the like
I just think
people
of
that competed.
Normal people, and then just a polygon face.
You made me laugh earlier on because you were talking about how I was a master of disguise, and I was like, you smear mud on his face.
It was
He looks
clay,
like,
actually.
looks like MGS1.
Yeah, that's-
Solid Snake. Like,
What lesson of disguise school do they teach you just to go, oh, I guess I'm anonymous now?
I should have done that to the baby. Fuck.
you're wearing the same clothes. Yes.
Yeah, I borrowed them off the guy that was just here.
Quickly, you didn't
He was in a rush to leave.
His clothes fell off.
He's really fast.
Yeah, there's like remnants of you guys. There'd just be like an old kind of tavern song that's sung about these really super depressing adventurers.
Oh yeah, because you made him make it really dour.
Yeah, because he was a tragedy bard. Like, that's how he wrote stuff, and you guys were like, write us a song. It's like, I'll write it how I know to write songs.
Yeah.
Blood and guts and stuff. So yeah, you'll be kind of known on 2 continents, and on one of them still mainly known as war criminals.
Ah, well. Can't
Perception, isn't it?
Not you, sis.
Yeah.
Or Quinn.
Or Owain.
Or it's just Sabina.
Yeah. Sorry, George.
And she's very easy to pin that on. So
Yeah.
unfortunately, maybe little girl in the crowd. Her life's mission is to clear Sabine's name somehow.
She was a hero.
Maybe I'll play this little character.
Yeah. It feels like it.
Nah.
No.
Nathan's thing. You wanted it. You wanted Sabine to be alive.
Nah.
No.
I
No.
don't care.
Give or take.
Yeah. Put it in the bin.
The correct way to do it.
Fuck you. There you go.
Right.
If we still did physical sheets, they'd just be torn up and in a bin now.
Yeah, there'd be a little bin on the table, and we'd put them all in, we'd set them on fire, and then we'd be like, Kalima.
Partly has always wanted to do like a really harsh like D&D where we're using paper sheets. If you die, DM gets to rip up your sheet. And that's
Everybody thinks that I'm like a no,
I just
cruel
mean, like-
person. You're just like, how's this feel? How's this feel?
that'd be great.
Well, have you seen the whole thing of like the DM will roll death saves for you as well?
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is an interesting way to go about it. Because then it can be like, can I have your sheet?
Yeah.
Just kidding. It's like,
Yeah, I did see there was someone that like kind of said about a homebrew ruling that they do where the death saves are rolled behind the DM screen, so just the player and the DM knows, just so it adds more urgency to like, oh well, I don't know if they're good or if they're gonna.
I definitely get that. I like that.
Yeah.
In Foundry, the VTT I use, you can do a GM roll where only the player does the roll, but the GM can see it and they can see it. And I did that for death saves.
Yeah.
The player that I could trust not to poker face it well.
Yeah.
And that was quite well. The rest of the players fucking hated it because they were like, well, I don't know what to do anymore. That's the point.
Yeah.
Could already be dead and you wouldn't even know.
No.
I'm going to go and lay on hands 10 HP. Okay? They're dead. Doesn't do anything.
Cool. Well, any last comments, queries, questions, anything like that before we wrap up this?
Just thanks. And don't beat yourself up about it.
I'm gonna retreat to some woods somewhere.
Yeah, like
Log cabin it up.
I feel quite.
I'll never touch a D20 again. You brought that into my house.
You walk into the log cabin, he's just carving D20s. Dang, that's all he does.
It's a big pile of them. Never to be used. I don't want them to be used.
Granddad, what's this? Get away from me!
Just sets it on fire immediately.
I feel like, I mean, for me in particular, like, it was a fitting end. Like, so I'm not upset about the way you went out. Like, it is what it is. This is D&D. The dice weren't on our side. Our strats weren't quite as minty as they could have been. But, you know,
Yeah,
it is what it is.
I kind of like looking at it through the lens of like, as much as Ulysses kind of looked at them as being the heroes, because of how many times they just kind of went from one situation and kind of fell into another situation. I kind of like looking at it as like, they're not the hero. They are just a group of adventurers that they tried to adventure and they died.
Yeah.
And now another set of heroes are going to rise and they're going to be the ones that save the day.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Because there's maybe.
They're going to try.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're going to try.
I was trying to think while we were talking, like some sound, like you were saying about the boat scene was really good,
Yeah.
and then I was just trying to think of other bits, but there's loads. Like I remember it, just little snippets of time throughout the whole campaign that make me laugh and make me smile. Just like this when we were in the going down, in like Quinn's first mission, the big hole in the ground. Going down into that dungeon and trying to search that guy, and then just ended up being like, that guy, are you here?
No way.
Yeah, he's given up at every other routes to achieve this goal, so we just start calling out his name and then sleeping on like hay bales or something. Yeah. And then all the boat stuff, and then protecting Sabine when she transformed was good.
Yeah, that was really good. That was really fun. Quinn kissing Sabine was a highlight for me.
Yeah. Which
it was just
that was like again another one of those kind of like really nice organic kind of things that just kind of, it's not like you two had planned it prior, just happened.
Was that before or after you revealed yourself?
Oh yeah, that happened quite early, I think.
Oh okay.
But see, here's the thing, Quinn's a bit like Owain, and they didn't have a huge amount of like world experience. You go from like family to like weird cult where social relationships don't really happen.
Yeah.
To now like out in the real world.
I mean that is almost parallel to
two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
And then you confronted with Sabine, who is like probably the most attractive one of your race you've ever met before.
Yeah.
Who's like kick ass and badass.
Yeah.
Of course you're gonna be like but he doesn't know how to talk to people or do anything, so that was the Quinn facade dropping just for a moment. Because she's like a babe to him.
Yeah.
So.
Well, to everyone.
Yeah, she was. She was a babe.
We'll upload the AI first.
Did we establish if anything happened between he and Zorander in that
Secrets.
Secrets.
No, don't kiss and tell.
They just drank wine, spoke about wine.
And the ebb and flow of time and tides and
the thickness of wine bottles.
Statistically, Owain got the most action on that.
No, what if we're doing that? Full penetration.
Just cutting between that and then every night Owain just like, please bring back, could you? And then having to share a hammer just on the edge.
I feel bad that Divine Intervention never.
It's
never
just one of those things, like
even with the 50-50.
Oh yeah. That was such like a hand down to
yeah. I very much appreciate your effort in doing that. It's something that whenever I've rolled it, I always expect it to fail. Mm-hmm. So
as you should.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The odds of it are coming up are so dramatically low. Yes. Yeah. What level was I? 12. So yeah, just 10% ballpark.
Yeah. But that's not good odds.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hopefully these past 3 years have been well spent. I hope that you've all enjoyed it, and we've birthed a podcast out of it, and we've got merch, and we've gone and done stuff because of it. So,
got a PC out of it.
I did get a PC out of it. None of you.
No, that's what I meant. I mean, I didn't mean us.
Oh, you didn't get one?
Oh, who do I contact?
Well, we will be back with
more than that. We had fun.
Most importantly.
DM notwithstanding.
Yeah, a lot of grey hair.
I mean, that happens anyway.
That's true. We'll be back with another campaign. Hopefully,
still got to finish this one.
Yeah,
in a sense.
Three episodes left. We're basically done.
Yeah,
epilogue. And this is the epilogue. It's not a campaign proper.
It's not yet. Hopefully it goes on for another 3 years, and we keep doing the podcast, and we keep entertaining you lot as well.
If I get to hang out with you guys every other week, I'll keep coming back.
We're all good.
Yeah.
Just to recap, I mean, of course, check us out on the various social media platforms: TikTok, Instagram. Shut up. Instagram, Twitter,
YouTube,
Twitch.
Wobblecast.
Dad's
Dad's
Pod.
Pod, Hot Pod,
Modge Podge,
Rod, Todd and Pod.
Snap Crackle and Pod.
I love that one. Also, you know, Game Tea, discount code TheBrigsy, TheBrigsy, for 5% off your entire order. I struggled with
You
that.
birthed that one.
Yeah. If actual plays aren't your cup of tea, head on over, thinking critically on
Everything.
all of those
Think
platforms.
DDandD. Again. No numbers.
The numbers.
We've all been on it. We've all been guests
We've all been
at
on
some
it.
stage.
Everyone's been on it.
Yeah.
So if you don't really dislike us, then you want to hear more of us.
They hate us. It might be alright.
Yeah.
And then Patreon as well. Head on over, support us financially, and we can get more maps and stuff. I can buy a really big multi-tiered dungeon map for these lot for the one shots from Game Tea.
Do it.
Yeah, cool. Thanks everybody.
Cheers.
Oh, wait, don't say goodbye because I have to do this thing.
Oh, he's got to do the thing.
Where do I go to?
I don't know.
Is there a goodbye one?
I think
End of stream.
is that not just a black screen?
No, I trust George. It will take us somewhere we need to go.
Okay. All right. Bye all.
Bye.
We'll see you for the one shot.
Bye.
Bye.